everybody, and welcome back to the Veras Connolly channel, and today we're going to be talking about my latest addiction. Contender for Game of the Year in 2024, Balatro is a deck building game developed by Local Thunk, which is a fantastic name by the way, that is available on most, if not all, gaming platforms. The first time that I heard about Balatro is that somebody else told me that it was up for Game of the Year, and since I'd never heard of it, I brushed it off because I was like, I've never heard of that. That sounds ridiculous. Of course that shouldn't win Game of the Year. And then, like with most things, I saw somebody else play it, and then it piqued my interest, and then I got addicted to it. The person who introduced it to me officially was Markiplier, which is also why I'm kind of late to talking about this, because I found out about it so late. However, Balatro presents a very unique concept that I feel like a lot of games are kind of losing these days, which is simplistic complexity. It's essentially where the game introduces a very simple concept at the start, but as you play, you unfold the layers more and more, and the game gets more complicated and intricate. However, the more you play it, the easier it is to understand some of those more complex and intricate parts of the game design. So as the game goes on, it gets way less confusing, you start to get way more invested in it, and you feel like a genius by the end of it because you know how to play the game front to back. Nowadays, games tend to focus on these big, expansive, huge narratives and stories and worlds and gameplay, which is not something we shouldn't have in the industry, but Balatro really reminds me of a time where games didn't have to be that deep to just be fun and be very interesting and addicting and clock multiple hours into. For those of you who don't know, here's a little bit more about Balatro. Also, just a side note to the developer if they happen to see this by any stretch of the imagination, I had this weird issue that when I put it into full screen mode, I couldn't see my mouse in the game, and also the game froze on OBS, but I could see my mouse moving, but the game wasn't moving on OBS, which was really bizarre, so I had to play it in windowed mode, which is fine, but it was just really bizarre. Anyway, Balatro is a poker roguelike where your objective is to earn enough chips by making high enough scores using poker hands to win the round. There are 3 rounds: an easy round, a hard round, and a boss round. And every boss blind has a stipulation to work around, like jump 2 random cards from your hand every time you play one, or some of your cards will be drawn face down. It's just a fun, interesting little mechanic to keep the game interesting as you go further in. There are also Joker cards, which allows you to add chips and multipliers to your score when you play a hand. A Joker, huh? That's weird, I don't feel any funnier. There are also planet cards, which bump up the levels of poker hand types, making them worth more when played. There are also tarot cards that each have a random effect, like upgrading your cards or giving you additional power-ups. There are also spectral cards, multiple decks, vouchers, booster packs, all with varying effects that help to give you anything so you have an advantage in the game. However, you can only have a max of 5 jokers and 2 additional specialty cards, so you have to play wisely. Your deck, however, is limitless, so gather as many cards as you possibly can. Fun fact, I didn't know a single poker hand until I played this game and completed the tutorial. I'm 24, and my lack of knowledge would astound you. Veras, what's the capital of Minnesota? SpongeBob. There are also variant types to each of the cards, like holographic or foil. Jokers also have variants as well. For instance, I found a negative type Joker, which basically means it won't take up a slot in your Joker hand. For such a simple concept, Balatro really envelops you in its addictive visuals, melody, and premise by forcing you to think strategically and methodically, because your next move could very well be your last. Remember, this game is a roguelike, so if you die, you are sent all the way back to square one, to which there are 8 squares in this game known as antes. So you better build up an unstoppable deck or it's game over. The only thing in this game that doesn't seem to be reset, which is kind of nice, is your money. So that's actually a really nice mercy, and I appreciate that. Balatro is also the master of suspense. Will this be enough? Will I luck out and get the card I need in the shop? Should I risk discarding a pair for the promise of a flush? Wake-up calls like this happen all the time. Like here, when I almost fucked up by trashing a pair and slid by on a high card ace. Yikes, that was close. On my first run ever of this game, I made it halfway through ante 5, and while the game only goes up to 8, it is possible to pass ante 8 and keep playing. However, past that point, it gets ridiculously harder to keep up with the blinds that they ask of you. Oh mama! As with the theme of this game, gambling, a lot of it is about luck. Some runs will be good, and some runs will be dog shit. I often find that the simplest jokers in this game are actually the ones that are the most effective. For instance, Greedy Joker, which basically just adds a ×3 multiplier to every diamond card that you play. Or Abstract Joker, which adds to your multiplier depending on how many jokers you have in your hand at that time. The cards can also get weird, like Fibonacci, which gives a +8 multiplier to any aces, 2s, 3s, 5s, or 8s, which is basically just any number in the Fibonacci sequence. Or Misprint, where the multiplier is completely random. You can also find some crazy ass cards in this game, like this random 7 of hearts with mult and a red seal, which means it had a high multiplier attached to it, and it'll count it again to add even more of a score to it. Yep, those are all aces, and the buffs on the cards as well as the jokers, that's gonna exponentially increase my chips and the multiplier. I will say though, sometimes if you stack jokers correctly, you can completely overshoot the early stage antes. I finally beat Balatro while I was on a train trip to New York, which is kind of unfortunate because I forgot to record my phone while I was doing that, so I took screenshots. I was able to get all the way up to ante 10 before I ended up dying, but I'll run through the jokers that I had because this team of jokers that I had pretty much didn't change for the entirety of the run. I had a hologram joker, which adds ×0.25 multiplier when a card is added to the deck from the packs. I had the standard ×4 multiplier joker. I had spare trousers, which adds ×2 multiplier whenever a 2 pair is played. I had baseball card, which makes all uncommon jokers give a 1.5 times multiplier, and Fibonacci. Honestly, the trick to this game is just getting as many cards as you can to add to your deck, as well as opening as many planet cards as possible to keep upgrading your poker hands so that they will be way more effective. You can probably rely on your jokers for about 4 or 5 antes, but as soon as you get there and you have not upgraded any of your poker hands at that point, it's gonna be game over. I always say that it's important to rely on those planet cards and to get them as soon as possible when you can. You got to get those jokers within the first 2 antes, and you got to start racking up those planet cards from ante 1 to ante 4. But if you just follow that simple timeline, you'll be just fine. But as you can see, Balatro is a simple concept taken to new heights with those intricate details etched into the sides. Balatro stands as a testament to making a game simple in design and fun in practice with a rewarding knowledge curve as you play and restart over and over. The jokers and power-up cards can get a little confusing, but once you understand how the base game works, the knowledge of understanding them comes naturally. You're not going to get any of that learning in this. Take that, books. Ah, my foot! As somebody who has never really liked roguelikes at all, because it always felt like you were in a never-ending loop and were going nowhere, Balatro managed to make me enjoy a type of game that I originally hated the idea of. And that is the mark of a good game. Its psychedelic backgrounds and tripped-out Vegas aesthetic ties everything together and helps sell the idea that it's you against the odds. Not to mention the tight visuals and animations, and I don't know about you, but I could listen to this theme all fucking day. While Balatro doesn't have a story, its sound effects and sometimes harsh score goals illustrate an internal conflict between the player and their wits, how to outsmart a system trying to screw them over. Kind of poetic and fitting to the times we're living in now, huh? And that's Balatro. This game is honestly a fantastic experience. It's really fun and really addicting, and something I really didn't think I would be so into. Its amazing visual aesthetic and gameplay and music are just all really well put together, and it's frankly just a really good game. I highly recommend you buying Balatro. I ended up buying it 3 times myself. I bought it on Steam, I bought it on my phone, and I bought the special edition that came out for the Nintendo Switch as well as the other consoles. These versions come with 5 Joker cards and 5 Ace cards from the game with all the little special details on them that make them so unique and cool. Now that I know better, I completely understand why this game was up for Game of the Year, and I'm a little sad it didn't win, but also, let's be honest, Astrobot deserved that win. But anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Happy gambling.